Spoiler alert, you are your habits. My name is Emil, and this is my TED Talk Genius Hour presentation. For my question, I chose how can you develop and sustain new goal aligned habits within 6 weeks? This is a super loaded question, and so I broke it down by looking at how can we develop a goal and what are the habits and systems that go into place to achieving that goal. And so the vision for this project and the mission essentially is to create a sustainable tool based on research that fits my lifestyle. So one is collecting important data. I used a lot of research from the famous book Atomic Habits by James Clear, and this book he breaks down the habit formation and systems, and I based a lot of the knowledge that I have in this presentation based off of that book, as well as my personal experience working with the Center of Mind Body Medicine. And then number two would be testing and recording. So testing to see what habits, like what would make a habit stick, and recording that process to see what worked, what didn't work, and then from there iterating. And so the big problem that most people face, especially myself, that big question of why am I the way that I am? And that boils down to your habits and how you choose to show up. So if you have a goal and you're trying to accomplish it and you for some reason feel like you're constantly hitting a roadblock, some common struggles would be procrastination, anxiety, overwhelm. You might feel lost or confused. Maybe you don't even know where to start, or you're just plain unfocused. And so to help move past those roadblocks, having a really clear understanding of who you are and what your why is super important. And these are two things that are covered in James Clear's book, Atomic Habits, but also through the research that I did with the Center of Mind Body Medicine. So understanding who you are, what are your values, what do you stand for, what aligns with who you are as a person, and also understanding what is your why. When it comes to any sort of goal that you might have, you won't succeed in accomplishing it if it doesn't align with your values and if you don't know why you're doing it in the first place. It's important to ask yourself, what is that goal? So let's say, for example, your goal is you want to lose 10 pounds in the next 2 months. That's your goal. That's great. But now ask yourself, why do you want to accomplish that goal? Is it for vain reasons? Do you want to look a certain way? Or is it because you want to feel healthier and be healthier and have more energy? And ask yourself, which one of those answers best aligns with your personal values? And once you have that why, that creating that motivation and discipline to keep showing up to accomplish the goals, to accomplish the habits that make up that end goal are going to be a lot easier because you understand what your motivation is behind it. And the biggest categories when it comes to figuring out goals and the habits that create those goals are by categorizing your life and those goals into specific buckets. And the three main buckets are health, wealth, and relationships when it comes to any sort of personal growth and development. So for health, we have mind, body, soul. So mind would look like reading, writing, journaling, learning, and therapy. Body would look like eating healthy and exercising, and soul would categorize as meditation, prayer, and hobbies. Wealth can be more than just material wealth. We are looking at habits that align with career growth, working on a passion project, or even a creative skill. And then our third bucket is relationships. So habits that work on ourselves, habits that are aligned with our partner, family, friends, and networking. And from there, we can figure out what our big goal is and how we can break it down. So we have our big mountain, and the top of that mountain is you've reached your desired outcome, which is that end goal. But before we get to that top of the mountain and keep focusing on the top of the mountain, because sometimes that can be super overwhelming, we need to go all the way to that very first step and focus on that. And that is effective planning and understanding what you need to climb your mountain. From there, you can start taking the steps which are accomplishing the habits that you've broken down from that main big goal, which is the systems that make accomplishing your habit easier. And then from there, we're tracking our progress and iterating to improve your systems. So we have our habits and we have our systems. And our systems make accomplishing our habits easier. So if we break it down, we have our big goal, which is what we want to accomplish. Our goal is broken down into specific habits we need to accomplish each day. And to accomplish each of those habits, we need to have effective systems. And those effective systems are made there to reduce friction of actually accomplishing those habits. So if you don't accomplish those habits, you're not reaching your goal. But to make you accomplish those habits easier, we want to reduce that friction. So a perfect example is, back to that exercise goal, laying out your gym clothes in the morning so that you get up and just get dressed, or even easier, you wear your gym clothes to bed so that once you wake up in the morning, you're ready to go and you're reducing that friction. So that's an example of an effective habit. And all of this at the end is way, way easier said than done. And personally, that's something that I witnessed. So during this, as I was also creating this system and documenting it, I found that the real kicker when it comes to developing these habits is self-discipline and really connecting to your why. And that's something that I personally had to struggle with a little bit as well. So you might be really good at planning and figuring out what your goals are and everything, but if you don't have that discipline and you don't really connect to your why, you're going to struggle. And that's something that I personally experienced. And through the past couple of weeks of researching, iterating, and working on this, creating this system, I have come up with a self-reflection workbook to really understand the root, which is your values, who you are, where you want to be, to really understand what your goal is. And from there, you can break it down into the effective habits. And so in process right now is coming up with an effective habit tracker and planner to be able to monitor the sustainable growth of those specific habits. And so, in conclusion, over these past 6 weeks, I've learned that it is possible to gain specific habits, but it is super difficult to. And to make it a lot easier, it's important to have your habits and your goals be aligned with who you are as a person and understanding what goes into actually reaching that goal. Because if you're just focusing on that top of the mountain, you're going to have a really hard time reaching it. So you want to break it down and understand what goes into that. And you'll realize that through taking those small steps, it's a lot easier to actually accomplish your end goal. Thank you for listening, and best of luck reaching your goals.